Hi quilty friends, and welcome to my little spot in Podunk. My name is Leanne, and we're going to make that cute little block back there with the kitty cat and the Christmas tree. Before we get started, I always like to go over things that we might need, and you're going to need some type of cutting utensil, whether it be scissors or a rotary cutter. You're also going to need a 1/4-inch foot and a open toe foot. And you're going to need some type of marking utensil and something to mark a line with. And of course you're going to need an iron of some sort, and I'm going to be using this today. Instead of an iron, I'll use a seam roller on some heavy seams. And you might need some diagonal seam tape. If you don't have diagonal seam tape, you can of course make your own out of just a plain old piece of tape and draw some lines on it. You don't even need to do that. You can just line it up with the needle on the bed of your sewing machine and use the edge of the tape for the straight line. Then you might need something to mark your blocks with. As you can see up here, I've marked my blocks with letters. It's very helpful, especially when you're laying out pieces and you're cutting the fabrics to mark them. But I put these up here for my reference and for yours, so you can take a good look at that. I've printed out some stickers, and I will link to these stickers down below. It's the plain stickers on Amazon. You will have to go in and edit it yourself. And since we're talking about these stickers, I also wanted to let you know that I've been using these and it's working out really well as far as them sticking and re-sticking. But what I've had to do is get a piece of freezer paper and stick them to this. They stick better to the shiny side of freezer paper than they do the original paper that they came with. All right, and if you don't want to do that, I have designed these little cards. It's a free printable. You print them out. I printed mine out on cardstock, and you can change the letter color, the font. You cannot, however, change the circle. I took a hole punch on most of them and punched a little hole. You can stick a pin through that to stick it on your blocks or your quilt pieces or your rows. These come in really handy. I've used them for years. I've just recently changed to the stickers due to it being easier to make these videos. All right, I also have a free printable PDF. In your PDF, you will get the cutting chart only, and where you can put or where that letter correlates to the block. And then there's a small picture just to help you out. But if you need a bigger picture, because some people just want a bigger picture, there's a second page with nothing but the cat. The pieces aren't marked. Did you see that? Put that back up there. Okay, that's free, and it will be linked below in the description box right underneath the description for this video. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I always like to do is start with the diagonal seams, get all those out of the way, and then the block goes together a lot faster. So we're going to start up here with fabrics E and M. I'm going to bring these down here. I'm going to be taking off these stickers and placing them off onto a sheet, but this will be the only time that you see this happening. From now on, I will cut this part out of the video. Okay, if you're new here, the first thing we want to do is these diagonal seams, and all you have to do is look on the pattern. Anywhere you see an angled seam, we're going to be doing these diagonal seams, and it's really easy when you've got this line on the bed of your machine, but you can mark a diagonal line from corner to corner and just sew directly on that. You do not have to have tape of any kind. So what I like to do is start on the side that has, don't start on a point, because the point sometimes likes to go down into the sewing machine. So I like to start on the side where there's a long piece of fabric, so your point's not hanging out there all willy-nilly in midair. And we'll just set this over here. And you're going to line up the corner of your square with the needle, and your needle should be right in the middle. It doesn't have to be. If you don't have the option to move your needle, don't worry about it. You can still do this method as long as your line right here is lined up with that needle, or as long as you've got a line drawn on the back of that fabric. So we're just going to take 1 or 2 stitches into that fabric, and then We're going to make sure that this tip down here is lined up with that middle red line, and we're just going to sew. And sew right off that tip. Then we'll get the next piece of fabric and we'll do the exact same thing, making sure that we're doing the diagonal the right direction. Line it up, put that tip right up against the needle, take 1 or 2 stitches, make sure that this point down here is lined up with the red line, and away we go. Now what we're going to do is come in here and we are going to cut 1/4 inch or so away from that stitched line. Now you could use a rotary cutter here if you like. I just don't like to. I've got another pair of scissors. For those of you that are returning, you see these new scissors. These were my mom's scissors, and we found these on Thanksgiving. These are old Case XX scissors, really heavy, really nice scissors. I was tickled to find them. Okay, now we're just going to take those and press them out and put them back up on our board. And my board here, I made these boards. If you haven't seen it, I have a video on how to make these boards from cardboard and flannel and a little bit of scrap fabric to go around the outside. And this needs to go up here. We're going to get fabrics N and F. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to turn these over and stitch the diagonal seams. Okay, and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to cut about 1/4 inch away. And those are scraps. And now we're going to press towards the dark, which would be the cat face. And I also like to tell everybody the type of fabrics that I'm using. And this gray dot is a Waverly fabric from Walmart. And if this, I am no fabric snob. I love finding good cheap fabric, and Waverly's pretty good fabric. It does tend to ravel, so you'll want to starch it. This fabric right here is a Riley Blake. It's a Lori Holt fabric, and I believe it's from Cozy Christmas. My background fabric is also from Riley Blake, and the line is called Blossom, but I cannot remember who designed it. I think it's Christopher Thompson, but I wouldn't swear to that. My green fabric up here is a Lake House Dry Goods fabric. I don't remember what line it is, but you just do a Google search for Lake House Dry Goods, green, and you may be able to still find it out there. The pins, I have no idea what it is. I got a scrap bag one time and the salvage was cut off, so that's where that came from. This is another Lake House Dry Goods fabric. It's called Ring-a-Dings, I believe. Yeah, Ring-a-Dings, but I don't remember what line. And down here, this is a Choice Fabrics. Don't remember the line. Traditions, I believe, is what this one's called. And then down at the bottom, I have, for the tree trunk, I have another Lake House Dry Goods gray mini check, and I don't remember what line that's from, but I'm sure if you do Google searches on any of these, you can find them. All right, so let's go back to doing our diagonal seams. We don't have very many in this block, so we're going to grab pieces F and O. And you want to make sure that you stick around for this free project at the end, this pillow. I will give you the measurements for making the block bigger, for snowballing it, and the borders, and also to do the envelope closure backing. I'll give the yardage for that, and the binding. Well, not the yardage, but the cuts that you're going to need. Okay, let's go ahead and cut those off. 1/4 inch away from that sewn line. And press to the dark once again. And as usual, I have to mention that I'm a press to the dark kind of person, but we are going to have a couple seams on this one where we're going to press it open just to reduce some bulk. Nothing's 100% in quilting. Okay, let's put our little cat body or the beginning of our cat body up there. And it looks like we've got 2 more diagonal seams, and they're down here on the R piece. You got D and F also. Now we've got these little pieces on here, and sometimes it's a good idea to just stick a pin in those and hold it steady right where you need it to be. And you can put a pin in there and put it the direction, this is a little tip, of that pin is bent all to get out. Put it in the direction that your seam could go, or is supposed to go. That way you know you're supposed to sew in that direction. Okay, what I'm going to do is to show you what you can do. I don't typically like doing this on the videos because it's time consuming, but you can sew a second seam and make this into a half square triangle. So I moved my needle over, but you do what you have to do to get about a 1/2 inch in between there. And I think that's a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch. Nope, it's right at a 1/2 inch, so I'm good to go. And I'm just lining up that first stitch line with this black line over here. I'm just going to sew another line, keeping the point of that square right on that black line on the left. Okay, now I can come in there and cut that off like this. And I have a bonus half square triangle, but for the sake of video, most of the time I don't do that, just to make things go a little bit faster. So now I'm going to come in here and do the other seam. Okay, cutting a 1/4 inch away again. Now on this seam right here, we're going to press this one towards the white because I do believe it's going to have to nest up right here with that seam, and that seam is pressed toward the gray. And then this one, we're going to press it towards the gray, the one down at the bottom, just because. Okay, and that's all the diagonal seams from here on out. It's straight stitching, so I'm going to change out my open toe foot to a 1/4 inch foot, like a so. Move my needle over where it needs to be, and we're going to start putting these together in sections. So there's nothing to sew to A, so we're going to come up here and get B, H, and C. Okay, we're just going to sew those 3 together. We've got our 1/4 inch seam sewn. We're just going to come in there and press it towards the green, the tree part, and put it right back up there. And we're going to sew together this section, D and I. Okay, and we're going to press it out towards the green again. And put it right back up there. What did I do? Oh, it goes this way. There we go. Now we're going to sew these 3 units together. We got a unit A, and we're going to add it to those 2 top tree pieces. Okay, we're going to just press that up towards that solid piece of fabric, and then add the next row. Okay, and I'm just going to keep pressing upwards. We're going to put that right back up there, and we're going to put the cat face together. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and get the little cat collar. We got G, 2G, and 1T. Alrighty, let's take these and press them out towards that background fabric so they'll nest up nice with the cat face and the cat body. And we're just going to put that right back up there. Now we're going to sew together this unit right here. Okay, let's press that towards the face of our cute little kitty cat. Let's go ahead and get these two and bring them down and sew these two together. I've got a little bit of fullness in there, not enough that I'm going to sweat it, but I'm going to try to ease it in by putting that collar on the bottom and putting 3 pins in it, one right in the middle to help ease in that fullness. I'm going to stitch right up to that pin and jump over it, and then keep on sewing. Okay, let's check it out and see how well these lined up. All righty. I think I'm going to press these open. Come on, you can do it. There it goes. I'm just going to press it open with my finger, and then I'm going to get my little Lori Holt seam roller and giving it a good, that's a hard press. Now, I always like to mention that my fabrics are starched pretty good, and I wanted you to see how those lined up pretty good without having to do any marking. Those 2 seams right there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. It looks like there's going to be a little fullness, so I'm just going to pin both ends and then pin in the middle. Now you could crease both of these, fold them in half, crease them, match up the creases in order to get it exactly perfect, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. I don't know why. All right, so there's my fullness. You see that little gap right there? And what I'm going to do is just I'm going to pinch it and give it a little pull. That way it evens it out. And then I'm going to pinch right in the middle and put a pin there. And that should help distribute the fullness. And I'm adjusting that fabric, pulling it down, because that fullness wants to push it up. So just pull it down. If you got to stick another pin in it, then do that. This doesn't always work, but most of the time it works for me. Okay, let's come in there and press that out. I had some thread issues with that one. I don't know what the problem finally was. I rethreaded the top finally and that worked. Sometimes it happens. Machines just have a bad day. We're going to press those open. We're going to come up here and sew the little cat face to the A fabric over here on the side. Okay, let's press that out toward the solid fabric and go up there and grab the top of the tree. Sew that on there. Now this tree, I should mention, you probably see this quilt back here. The tree idea came from that quilt, and this was a scrap buster quilt that I made using several different background fabrics and prints, colored prints, and I have 2 different tutorials, one for each block. There's only 2 blocks in that, and I will link to them in the description box below. It's a scrap buster using 2.5-inch strips. All but the pinwheels are 2.5 strips in that, 2.5-inch wide strips in that quilt. All right, let's open this up, and I think I'm going to press to the cat face, just because we've got some better seams over there that are opened up, not as much bulk. So that's what I'm going to do. And we've got the top done. We're halfway there. Actually, less than halfway, because all this is simple straight piecing down here. So let's grab fabric C, J, and P. All right, and we're just going to sew those 3 together. Okay, let's press that green or in towards the green. And grab the next two, which is K and P, or Q and P. No. K and Q. Woo! Okay, I think I'm just going to go ahead and press that towards the green, simply because that's what we've been doing. So let's just keep doing it. We're going to grab those last three fabrics on the bottom. We've got B, L, and S. All right, press both of those fabrics towards the tree trunk and stick it back up there. Now we're going to sew these three together. Okay, and let's press it down. Yeah, let's press it down. Just because there's fewer seams. No other reason than that. And I also like to mention that you do not have to press these seams in the direction I'm pressing them. You press them any direction that you like. It's your quilt block. I am just one of those people who likes to press to the dark, old school. Nobody pressed seams open when I first started quilting. And to be honest, I've tried it and I don't care for it because I quilt on a frame, a mid-arm on a frame, and what happens is if I decide to stitch in the ditch, I can tear those stitches up that are down in that seam if they're open. So I don't want to tear up my stitches. The needle can just cut those threads right in half. And I never really know how I'm going to quilt a quilt until it's done. It's on the frame, and sometimes it could take months for me to decide how I'm going to quilt it. But we tend to stitch in the ditch a lot, so that's why I don't press too many seams open. But I know when I do, and I'm very careful. All right, now all we got to do is come over and grab that last piece, add it to this one. And we are almost done, you guys. Hang in there. I'm going to get to the pillow here in a little bit. Okay, and let's press that out towards the gray. Okay, so let's give this girl a press. And I am going to press it. Should we press it up? Let's see how it feels. Nope, I'm going to press it down towards the bottom of the block. Okay, now we'll just stick that up there, and I'll show you my pillow. That looks so cute, doesn't it? I like the little blue collar. The blue and gray goes really nice together. As promised, here's the pillow, and I'll give you the directions. But before we do that, if you have an idea for a cat quilt block, please leave it in the comments below. I'll do my best to design it up and give it to you for free. The first thing you have to do is to add a frame, and you'll need 2.5 by 12.5, and then you'll need 16.5 by 2.5 on the top and the bottom. And I just press those out. And then you're going to add corners. These corners right here, these are 4.5-inch squares. And you're going to lay them on there, sew a diagonal seam, and then clip off the outsides. Those are the stitch and flip corners, flippy corners. And after we snowball these, we need to add the last frame, and that's right here. So you're going to need two pieces that are 2.5 by 16.5 that goes on the side, two pieces that are 2.5 by 20.5 to go on the top and the bottom. If you're going to need a piece of fabric that's about 22 inches, 23 inches, enough to cover the whole back of this so you can quilt it. And you also need a piece of batting. I use scrap batting to go in between there. I did what they call Franken batting, and I sewed a seam in it, spray basted it with spray basting glue for quilting, and then added the quilt backing on that. Okay, for the envelope closure backing, that's on the back, you're going to need 2 pieces of fabric right here, and those are 14.5 by 20.5. And as mentioned before, I have a video that I will link down in the description box below on how you go about making those, putting them together. And then for the binding, I have 2.5 by width of fabric strips that I use to make the binding. Well, y'all, we made another really cute cat quilt block, and I hope you enjoyed making it as much as I did. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button and the subscribe. That way I know to keep making more videos like this. You can also hit the bell notification. That way when I make a new video, you'll be notified and won't miss a thing. Until next time, I hope you find time to stitch up something sweet. I love you. Bye-bye.